Hey friend, Chris here from WhyLogicProRules.com, the website that helps you get the most you can out of Apple's Logic Pro. Happy New Year. I hope it's treating you just great so far. I'm actually in the beginning stages of mixing an album for a client and for a reader. And I thought it'd be kind of cool over the next few weeks to share with you some particular strategies that I'm using to overcome certain challenges or hurdles within these mixes. And this particular client has been so cool and has given me permission to share some of his projects with you. So, what I want to show you today is how you can use sidechain compression to give your vocals more space in a dense mix. Now, sidechain compression is nothing new, and the classic example is, a kick drum and a bass sound of any sort, where the bass is kind of obscuring the kick drum, and you need the kick drum to cut through. So you sidechain compress the bass to listen to the kick so that the bass is ducked every time the kick hits. Now, today's video is going to be similar, but we're going to step up the sidechain game here because when it comes to vocals, these are very dynamic instruments. They have loud sections and they have quieter sections. And usually the louder sections don't have a hard time cutting through in a mix, right? It's the quieter sections. So we're going to use some pretty aggressive compression and distortion and then sidechain some guitars. So the guitars are ducking out of the way of the vocals, but in a much more controlled fashion. So first things first, let's take a listen to this mix as it is right now, and we're going to take a listen to the chorus. This is punk rock through and through. It's loud, it's aggressive. I hope you can handle that. And it's in German, which is pretty cool. Let's take a listen to the chorus, and then we'll even compare against, before I did any sort of mixing, just so you can hear the before and after. So let's take a quick listen.
Hab ich endlich Zeit, Netflix leer zu schauen. Da gibt's bestimmt noch irgendwo eine Doku über Schleim. Und jetzt hab ich endlich Zeit, alles von Ikea zu bauen. Ich wollte ja schon immer 15 Schuhschränke daheim.
Cool, right? So let's take a listen to the before and after. I'll make it quick.
Hab ich endlich Zeit, Netflix leer zu schauen. Da gibt's bestimmt noch irgendwo eine Doku über Schleim. Und jetzt hab ich endlich...
Okay, that's no, shade on that old mix. It really was just whatever was in the session that I bounced out. So just pointing out how much work maybe has gone into this mix, but particularly when it comes to the vocals, I'm finding the vocals, I like the vocal sound a lot, but I feel like it's having a hard time cutting through in this mix at moments. The guitars are hard left and hard right in their amp designer. In fact, if we pop open these track stacks, you can see that this particular client, he's using amp designer right from within Logic. The bass is a software instrument bass that I exported. It was using sampler. On the drums, Steven Slate drums that I exported as audio regions, but it's like 90% in the box. That's pretty cool. So anyways, the vocals I feel like at moments are having a hard time kind of cutting through. Let's take a listen to these 2 or 3 bars here. Just take a listen, pay special attention to the quieter bits and the louder bits. Here we go. Right, so 49 to 51, I feel like a little too quiet. And then 51 to 53, I feel like it's pretty good. So what we're going to do is I have both of my guitars in these track stacks, right? And if we explode everything out, you can see that we have a multi-mic'd guitar situation, and there's some to track stacks. And then I've summed the 2 track stacks to basically their own bus, this auxiliary channel strip. You can take a listen. Right, and then all of the gang vocals in the chorus are summed to their own track stack as well. The process we're going to take is we're going to put a compressor on the guitar bus, the bus that's summing all the guitars together. And so let's pop open the compressor. And I'm going to set this to the Studio FET. This is not really an emulation, but inspired by something like an 1176, well known for being a very fast compressor. So I'll set this to maybe like 10 milliseconds. And what we're going to do is we're going to set the sidechain to that of the vocals. So if we take a look at the input of these vocals, it's bus 22. So let's select in the sidechain here, bus 22. And things are a little crazy, bear with me. But there we have it, all right? So now let's take a look and a listen to these vocals in the mix, and I'll even exaggerate the effects so we can really get a sense of what's going on here. Take a listen and a look.
Hab ich endlich Zeit, alles von Ikea zu bauen. Ich wollte ja schon immer 15 Schuhschränke daheim.
So as you can see on the needle of the compressor on the VU meter, at certain moments the vocals are very loud. At certain moments they're not as loud. And the compressor is reacting the most to the loudest bits, which are probably not the bits that we need help, cutting through in the mix. What we really need to help are the quieter bits. So the way I'm going to go about doing this is I'm going to select each of my vocal buses here, or track stacks, and I'm going to set the first send here, to that of a bus. And we're going to set it to the next available bus, which is bus 26, right? So now we want to make sure to set the send level to 0 because we want the vocals to be full throttle into this bus here, bus 26, or this aux 8. So I'm going to call this vocal sidechain. I'm going to set the output of the vocal sidechain to no output because we don't need to hear anything from this particular channel strip. We just want to affect it. But of course, for demonstrative purposes, you probably want to hear it. So we're going to leave the output set to the submix, but we're going to turn it off once we have our processing all set up. So let's open a plugin I love, which is Fat Effects. And I love it because I love to combine distortion and compression together, specifically for parallel processing, like parallel compression. But for this case, we want to obliterate these vocals for the process of sidechaining because we want the vocal dynamics not to affect the compression so much. Cool, so I actually have a preset that I've set up called Vox Sidechain. And we're even going to set up some distortion, so it's going to be pretty gnarly. And let's take a listen to this Vox Sidechain as is, soloed. It's going to sound crazy.
Hab ich endlich Zeit, alles von Ikea zu bauen. Ich wollte ja schon immer 15 Schuhschränke.
And in fact, we probably don't even need the distortion. So let me just set it back. Cool, take a listen again.
Hab ich endlich Zeit, alles von Ikea zu bauen. Ich wollte ja...
Cool, so I have it set to a vintage VCA compressor. And I'm smashing it, right? I have the amount set to negative 30 dB. And I made sure to set the limiter to soft limiting. So if we take a look at the meter here, you're going to see it just whacking into a wall because there's so much compression and limiting. Take a look.
Hab ich endlich Zeit, alles von Ikea zu bauen.
Right? So it is flattened. And this is on purpose. So let's now take a look at our guitar bus. And we're going to set this comp now to the sidechain of instead of bus 22, which is all of the chorus vocals feeding into a track stack, let's set it, for now we're going to set it to bus 26, but you're going to see why this is kind of erroneous. So let's go to bus and we'll go to bus 26 here. And now let's see the reaction on the compressor and we'll even, unsolo everything so we can see what's going on. And I'm going to set my output on my Vox sidechain to no output. So basically the vocals are feeding a separate auxiliary channel strip for the process of sidechaining the compressor. Confusing, I know, but just bear with me.
Hab ich endlich Zeit, Netflix leer zu schauen. Da gibt's bestimmt noch irgendwo ne Doku über Schleim. Und jetzt hab ich endlich Zeit, alles von Ikea zu bauen. Ich wollte ja schon immer 15.
So I see that the VU meter is still overreacting to the vocals. And this is because bus 26 is the input on this aux channel strip. So the compressor is looking at bus 26, whatever's passing through on that pipe or road or whatever you want to call it. It's not looking at the fat effects. It's not even perceiving that the fat effects is squashing the vocals in the least bit. So what we need to do is we need to set the output now of our Vox sidechain auxiliary channel strip to that of a different bus. So we'll set it to bus 30. Now we don't really need this aux channel strip. We could just delete it, but I'm just going to set the output to no output. And then if we go to the compressor and go to bus 30, right? So now the Vox sidechain is feeding the separate auxiliary channel strip, doesn't matter, but now the fat effects processing is on that road or pipe being fed through bus 30. So now the fat effects squash is being perceived. So let's now take a look and a listen to what's going on here.
Hab ich endlich Zeit, Netflix leer zu schauen. Da gibt's bestimmt noch irgendwo ne Doku über Schleim. Und jetzt hab ich endlich Zeit, alles von Ikea zu bauen. Ich wollte ja schon immer 15 Schuhschränke daheim.
Right, so now before and after, let's turn it off and back on. And we'll watch the histogram here, just so we can get a really fine view.
Hab ich endlich Zeit, Netflix leer zu schauen. Da gibt's bestimmt noch irgendwo ne Doku über Schleim. Und jetzt hab ich endlich Zeit, alles von Ikea zu bauen. Ich wollte ja schon immer 5.
You see some of those spikes right there? Let's take a look and a listen. So with the fat effects.
Immer 15 Schuhschränke.
Here we go.
Wollte ja schon immer 15 Schuhschränke.
And without.
Wollte ja schon immer 15 Schuhschränke.
Right? But if we were only listening to bus 26 here, so bus 26.
Wollte ja schon immer 15 Schuhschränke.
Right? So it's not perceiving the fat effects until we're listening to bus 30, the output of our Vox sidechain. Booyah. So now we can, kind of back off on the threshold here, and let's just perceive, let's listen to how the vocals are kind of cutting through in the mix. I'll have us watch the histogram, and I'll, bypass and reintroduce it so you can hear it.
Und jetzt hab ich endlich Zeit, alles von Ikea zu bauen. Ich wollte ja schon immer 15 Schuhschränke daheim.
And without.
Und jetzt hab ich endlich Zeit, alles von Ikea zu bauen. Ich wollte ja schon immer 15 Schuhschränke daheim.
Right now, we're getting a little more space in the mix for the vocals to exist. The guitars are there, they're prominent, but they're just being ducked ever so gently when the vocals are being performed. As you can see in the mixer here, I've applied, the same bus across all of the vocal tracks. So if we go to bus 26 again for the end vocals here. So now I have just one auxiliary channel strip. All the vocals are being fed to this sidechain aux channel strip. And then I can load a compressor or a dynamic EQ or whatever that accepts a sidechain signal to any other instrument in the mix, just to create that little bit of space. So this has been really helpful to me in these very dense punk mixes. So I hope that was helpful for you. If it was, as always, I highly recommend subscribing to the YouTube channel, Why Logic Per Rules, or subscribing on the website itself, whylogicperrules.com. Every week I'm posting new videos, new emails, and posts to help you get the most you can out of Apple's Logic Pro. Thanks so much.